amazing day, and I've loved hearing everyone's talk and speaking with all of you finalists. I had a really hard time trying to figure out what to talk about today. There are so many things I want to talk about. The fashion industry is so complex. I wanted to delve into different fibers. I wanted to talk about the international system for monitoring labor around the world. I wanted to talk about the history of the fashion industry, specifically in the last century, and how it's changed. It's crazy and really fascinating, and it has huge implications for sustainability. But I think I'm just going to talk about my personal story, why I founded my nonprofit, and then ask you guys a couple questions to make the point and kind of reiterate the points that everyone has made over the course of the day, that you, through your fashion choices, and also hopefully through your political action, can have a positive impact on the planet. I have two passions in my life. One is to make the fashion industry better for the world, and the second is to make things with my hands, specifically sewing garments. I grew up here in the Bay Area, actually. Both my parents are artists, and I was raised with an attitude like, if you want it, you make it. I'd be like, Mom, I really want this dress. She'd be like, that's great, you can make it for yourself. So I started sewing when I was really little, and I always loved fashion. Fashion projects who we are, where we are, when we are, and who we really want to be, who we aspire to be. But when I went to college, I studied international development and social entrepreneurship, and totally went away from fashion. I was looking at specifically business and how to solve global problems through business, like poverty and environmental degradation. So when I graduated from college, which was just a little over 3 years ago, so pretty recent, I feel like my journey is still in the beginning, I went to work in fair trade fashion that can really empower people around the world to help them get out of poverty and have better lives. I went to London and worked for a fair trade fashion company called Peopletree, which is the one that Emma Watson designed for, that sells in Topshop. Peopletree is a really incredible company. I'm wearing actually my sweater is Peopletree, my dress is Peopletree, my earrings are Peopletree. They have a really incredible model that's actually scaled really well. It sets an incredible example. I actually sewed for a company in Brussels after that. I wanted to better understand how clothing was made in the production of clothing, and so I went to work for a couture company in Brussels, where I was a hand seamstress and did hand finishing. And then I came back to the States and worked for Fair Trade USA. And I just, over that time, had done tons of research on sustainable fashion and sustainability in fashion, and found hundreds of incredible companies doing really good work, and hundreds of organizations doing really good work. But nobody knew about them, they were really difficult to find, and none of them worked together. So we founded Global Action Through Fashion, myself and my really good friend whose background was in microfinance, actually, to educate people about what sustainability in fashion is, and also work with the community of sustainable fashion industry leaders, I guess, to help them network and work with each other. The biggest project we're working on right now is a documentary film about the fashion industry, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I recently moved to Los Angeles a couple months ago, and I started another job, aside from running Global Action Through Fashion, which we set up as a charity, which I'm trying to figure out how to shift it out of a charity model and have it actually generate its own income. But I got another job in Los Angeles working for a couture company. I went there seeking to learn the art of sewing, and it's really interesting. People, just the fashion industry, I feel we've just been de-skilled and desensitized to fashion in today's world. And as I marketed myself as a seamstress in Los Angeles, everyone told me, don't ever tell people you're a seamstress. You should say you're a designer. Seamstresses and sewers are really not valued. You're not going to make any money. So it's been really fascinating, and I started working for a couture company that sells really beautiful gowns and fancy dresses for women in Hollywood. And in my first week, I'm the only American there, by far the youngest, was made manager of the sewing room because I think my English is better and because of my past experience. So now I'm trying to manage a team of sewers, and I'm learning a lot about the labor process and all the challenges that are involved in producing a line. This is a small company. There are like 9 sewers, and just the problems that you have with a small team like that in a really great studio in Los Angeles has helped me better understand kind of the greater labor issues. So it's been a really amazing journey, again, still in the beginning. But and for our documentary film for Global Action Through Fashion, I think that the film is the way that we can reach the largest audience and get them excited. So we're aiming it for theatrical release, and we ask hundreds of people 5 questions in our film, and I wanted to ask you guys a couple of those questions. And one is, what is your favorite piece of clothing? Does someone have a favorite piece of clothing they want to share? Yeah.
It's Margaret O'Leary striped cashmere sweater that I've had for a lot of years.
Why do you like it? Why is it your favorite?
Because I feel good when I'm wearing it. The fabric, I mean, you know, it's cashmere, it's beautiful. And so it looks good, feels good, very high quality. I've had it for a long time, and it's comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Great answer. Anyone else want to share their favorite piece of clothing?
Yeah, so I got like a year ago at American Apparel, and I don't know anything about it. It was solid and immediately I have it. And it's cozy and warm, and like, I don't know, I wear it all the time.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't match, I always have to wear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a new favorite. I really needed a hat this season, and someone made all these hats and dropped them off for free at Occupy, and it was like, there was the hat I wanted there, and someone made it, and it was like perfect.
Was it in Oakland?
No, it was
Because
in Bloomington.
there was a knit-in in Oakland.
Right
Where everyone hand knitted goods and donated them to Occupy Oakland. I wish I was in the Bay Area for that, but one more, yeah.
I have a Patagonia vest that I wear every single day because it's light. I can bring it with me. I can wear it hiking. I can wear it casually. It's awesome. My favorite.
Yeah. Good answer.
Good
I think.
quality.
We asked this question because I feel like so many people today are so separate from their clothing. Not many people. How many people here sew? So actually a good amount of people, more than usual. But people are so separate from the production of clothing, and clothing production is so global now, and clothing has become so disposable. It's really easy to buy cheap, disposable fashion that's bad for the planet and doesn't last a long time. And a lot of people don't even consider themselves to be fashion people, but everybody wears clothing. So we ask this question because we forget that we have a personal relationship with our clothing. And the last speaker talked about love, and I really feel like emotional and sentimental value is left out of the sustainable fashion discussion too much. It's really like first about your consumption habits, buy things that you really love and buy things that you really need. I'm trying to only let myself buy really expensive clothing because I'm really poor, and now I know that when I buy a really expensive piece of clothing, I'm going to keep it for a long time and really value it. So be emotionally connected to your clothing. Aside from just asking questions, which are really important, ask questions. Where does your clothing come from is another question that we ask for our film. It's one of the 5. So, do you know where your clothing comes from?
I think America or Italy.
Uh-huh. Anyone else? Where does your clothing come from?
The mall.
Yeah. It's so hard. None of us. It's so hard to find out where our clothing comes from. Even the tag doesn't tell the truth. It has the last point of where something was made. So maybe just the tag was sewn in that country, and it can be from that country, made in that country, and the materials are still like a lot of cotton is grown in the United States and then shipped to China and manufactured there and then comes back. I mean, it's from the Central Valley. It's really interesting. So just ask a lot of questions when you buy your clothing. Know where it comes from, know what it's made out of, and love it. Have an emotional connection to it. Repair it also. Try to keep it alive for a long time. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was political action, because with Global Action Through Fashion, we've really focused on consumer education and kind of my work through fair trade and work in looking at companies and business. I felt like consumers influence businesses to have better practices. If consumers demand organic, companies will start to provide more organic, which I do believe in. But I think that that is limited, and we can't shop our way out of the problem. The way that monitoring works for sweatshops and manufacturing around the world and also in the United States, it's like companies are monitoring their own factories, and it's just not working, and it's really difficult. And there are just a lot of international limitations as well. For example, Uzbekistan. A lot of cotton comes from Uzbekistan. The Uzbekistan government actually has required children to pick cotton in the fields. And even though the companies that are buying their cotton from that country have been campaigning for them not to have that law, not use child labor, the country's government won't cooperate. Or Bangladesh, for example, there were lots of riots in Bangladesh over this last summer to raise the national living wage, which is less than a minimum wage. H&M participated was campaigning for higher wages. A lot of big companies were campaigning, and the Bangladeshi government wouldn't raise the minimum wage. So I think we need to, I'm just starting to educate myself more about the political approach to solving problems. Hemp, for example, we have all learned about how harmful cotton can be. It uses more pesticides and chemicals than any other single crop on the planet. And polyester is a synthetic fiber, petroleum product, it's plastic. Cotton and polyester account for 3/4 of global textiles. So hemp, for example, is a really great fiber. It doesn't require any pesticides to grow. 250 times more fiber can grow on the same land as cotton. The processing is pretty good for the environment. But hemp is illegal to grow in the United States because of its association with the drug, but it actually doesn't, if the hemp fiber doesn't produce any drug, and there are just a lot of misconceptions, and so we need to take legal action to legalize good fibers and implement better labor practices. So beware what you wear and take political action.